Hello, everybody. I'm Jay Miller. I'm a developer advocate for Elastic, and I have a bunch of my friends with me here and fellow coworkers that are also advocates. And we're going to talk about developer advocacy because that's what we do. We talk about ourselves, and we often get that question. That's the first question we always get is like, so what is a developer advocate? What do they do? So I'm going to take a second and introduce everyone here, or at least let them introduce themselves. We'll start with you, Pri.
Hey, welcome. I'm Priscilla. I am an advocate for Latin America. I work at Elastic. I've been working for Elastic for the past 2 years, so 2 years and a half, basically. And I'm from Brazil. I live in Santos, is a city closer to São Paulo, in São Paulo state. And that's all, basically.
I'll go next.
Cool. Okay.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Lisa Jung. I'm also a developer advocate at Elastic. I am based in Denver, Colorado, and I joined the company, a little more than 6 months ago. So I'm still a newbie, and it's so good to see you guys.
All righty. Hey, everyone. My name is Ricardo Ferreira, and I'm also a developer advocate here at Elastic. Just like Lisa, I think I joined about 6 months ago, and so it's pretty soon. But I currently live in North Carolina, but originally from Brazil. So Pri and I, we basically have the same historical background. I'm from São Paulo as well.
I should, I guess, also introduce myself a little better as well. I'm Jay Miller.
No. You lost some time. No.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. You asked
Too
me.
late, Jay.
Well, I've been here for 8-9 months now. I don't know. I've been here for a little less than a year, and I'm from San Diego, and I'm originally from Tennessee, so there's a whole lot of traveling involved there. But this is kind of an experiment that we're wanting to do with our developer advocacy team with the YouTube channel. If you're not yet subscribed, be sure to do that. We post videos all the time. Like, I think there's like a video every day at this point that is from a meetup or a conference talk or just custom content for folks on YouTube to come and hang out and enjoy. But also, we have these events that you can go and actually be a part of over on our community page. So if you head over to community.elastic.co, you can see all the different events that are held around the world. There are plenty to choose from. I tend to like some of the Mountain View and the Amer virtual ones, but of course, we also support multiple languages across the world. And the conversation never has to end there. You can always also go to our discussion forum where people are asking technical questions. They're asking about the Elastic Stack, and they're engaging with us on a daily basis. And it's super cool getting to see the community and being involved with the community. So we're happy to present this. We're happy to have this discussion, but just remember the conversation doesn't have to stop here. Now, let's get back to the question at hand and talk about developer advocacy. So I'm going to start with Ricardo because I think Ricardo has probably been like one of the longest advocates on the team. So Ricardo, what is a developer advocate?
That's an interesting question because I've tried multiple times to explain to my now 10 years old son what I do for a living, and I have to admit that I failed terribly. So I'm not gonna be able to describe properly here, but I will try. All right, I'm gonna try to repeat the same words that I've tried to say to him. So let me know in the comments if you are able to comprehend what we do. That's a very comprehensive opinion, of course, but I think a developer advocate is someone that makes the life of developers less miserable, right? So let me explain what this means in reality. If you're a software developer and you write code for a living, you know that you're gonna face problems. You're gonna face road bumps, and not everything is going to be a very simple to use or simple to to understand or comprehend. So I think it is the job of the developer advocate to make your life less troublesome, right? And I use the words like less troublesome and less miserable because it's not fully possible to make your life less miserable or less troublesome. We're always going to face challenge in our role, right? But the developer advocate needs to help them. And the way we do this is by using a set of techniques that our team is going to describe here today, right? There's a bunch of them. Some uses as they are like a trademark, like writing blogs. Some of them like uses because that's what they do best. And some of them like compile all those techniques in one. So there's no such a thing about, all right, the developer advocates is someone that does X, Y, and Z. Perhaps it's a combination of all of them. But what matters is that if you're doing X, Y, Z, A, B, C, your ultimate goal is, again, to make developers' life less miserable.
So how do you feel like the biggest contribution to that is? Because I often hear like we're there to be at conferences, we're there to hand out business cards, we're there to, I guess take people to lunch occasionally and just chat. Like, yeah. I mean, these are all nice, but like, is it really solving the problem of like people in the community have questions and we may or may not have the answers? How do we kind of balance that line of like connecting with the community, but also like getting their feedback back to our team?
No, definitely. I think that's, like I said, there's a bunch of techniques that you can use to help developers. Going to conferences and sharing that horrible coffee they serve in conferences is one of them, and having a sincere talk about their problems. But I think if you think about it, the role of the developer advocate is to find the means to help them no matter what. It's almost if we were like some sort of a human router, right? Where we are basically connecting. Situation number one, you were connecting people with people, right? So perhaps I don't know the answer, but I do know the person from the engineering, from support, or perhaps even a colleague that knows the answer, so I can connect them. This is developer advocacy and on its roots. Or perhaps I can connect people with knowledge, right? So a common example is, all right, there's a question on Twitter, and I can do the research for them to grab in the documentation, if there is a piece of documentation available, about how to answer that question from the product perspective or from the technology perspective, and connect that piece of documentation with them. So you see, there's a lot of techniques that can be used. I think what matters is the enthusiasm of the developer advocates to actually perform that function properly, right? So I think what is important is to, like I said before, sometimes it's not about you knowing the answer, but knowing who knows the answer, right? Mm-hmm. So this is also contributes a lot.
Anyone else?
I mean, I think Ricardo did such an amazing job describing it all.
Really? Because my son didn't understand nothing, so that's a good.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think like it is connecting the dots. It's a good definition. Like it has been the bridge between someone that wants someone else to listen, to pay attention, to understand their problems, what they're facing, the challenge, and then for the company to understand and to give them a response, maybe by building something else, maybe by just entering or supporting. So I think this point of connecting the dots is really important, and I agree.
I think the tough question that comes up with that is, do we only answer questions about the Elastic Stack, as an advocate? Is that like our only role? If someone starts, throwing up other questions, are we like, whoa, that's not us. You're gonna need to go talk to their advocates.
Yeah, I have a very good story about this. Like, in my opinion, all right, and this is now Ricardo saying, not the developer advocates team or Elastic saying. I think we, as developer advocates, we obviously sometimes we work for companies. In our case, we work for Elastic, but I think we all have a set of technologies or products or domains in which, throughout our career, we become experts. I don't know. I don't like the word experts, but we become pretty good at it, right? Yeah. And I think it is our job to help in this domain, in this set of technology that we are good at it. And you name it, like take Priscilla, for example. She has been working, I think specifically in her past with IBM. Priscilla, I'm talking on your behalf, but you can correct me, right? But she's very good at machine learning and AI, right? So yeah, Elastic has some technologies that provide this as well, but I think her desire to help people in that domain, regardless of what Elastic provides, I think that's where developer advocates are proving their value to the community.
Mhm.
So I do this from time to time as well. Priscilla, correct me if I'm
Yeah, that's it, and I agree. I think you stream, for example, that we're very passionate about it every time that we
yeah.
talk about it. So I feel that and being an advocate, it is something cool that I think it is important. Like I think that the right advocate is someone like not the right, but usually like someone who is very active with the community and being part of the community, someone that likes to show up and likes to understand, to learn about everything, like literally. So there are people like, oh, but I'm from the sales team, like can I join this team? And yes, you can, because like you can have sales knowledge, you can have marketing knowledge, you can have all of this knowledge, but together, and then with everything and with all this piece of information, you perform better, you have a better background, and you'll be able to help more people. So it is not that we need to as Ricardo mentioned, like to be a subject matter expert, for example. I think this is the right name for to describe it. But it is sometimes we like and prefer an area instead of another, for example. But this is not something that is a limitation. For example, we can just approach other people from other areas and learn and genuinely support people, even if we don't know the answer. So I agree.
Yeah, I mean, we are developers ourselves, so we understand what it's like to be like stuck, like fixing a bug or trying to figure out this documentation. So when we see somebody like struggling and we have the expertise in that area, we try to help as much as we can. But we also like don't know everything, but we have a huge extensive network of other developer advocates that specialize in different products. So I have like my buddies from like different companies referring people to me if they have questions about Elasticsearch, and like I send people to them as well. So that's like another function of developer advocates. I think it's not just company specific, for sure.
And just to wrap up, Link, this discussion, like I think a fundamental characteristics of developer advocates has to do with empathy. Like the example that Lisa just gave is good, because I think what we do best is pretty much understanding and sympathizing with people that are struggling. I think that's a first, right? And these days it's pretty uncommon, unfortunately. Like the principle of applying empathy within a community or within your company, your colleagues, I think that's something like a missing ingredient in the relations we have as developers. So a key concept that a developer advocate needs to apply is empathy. So for example, sometimes you might see a thread on Twitter or Slack where people are discussing something, and you clearly see someone that might be a little shy to question things, or perhaps is a little intimidated to getting involved more into discussion because the what is the name of it? The Imposter Syndrome, right? They think that they're not up to speed about what the experts are talking about. So it is up to a developer advocate most of the time to sit outside of this and try to identify those individuals that are struggling and to try to address their questions specifically. Like this is developer advocacy 101, like to be empathetic to a point where you help the needed people, not just, of course, you're going to try to help everybody, but you are doing your job best if you try to actually help whoever is actually in need of, like I said before, connecting content with people.
I feel like you're picking on me because I literally talked about imposter syndrome in our Slack earlier today.
I'm not like
no, and I think that's a good point, is that we don't have all the answers. Like Lisa said, like we are learning, we're developing. I mean, with the Elastic Stack, there's updates every 6 weeks. There's like always something new to be learning about. So while most of the folks in the community have questions, we have those questions too. And the difference is we have some of the resources and we can kind of go behind the
Yes.
channels and like ask those teams, hey, you implemented this, you implemented schema on read in 7.12. Like, what does that mean? Like, how is that going to be different than what we're doing before? And I think it's okay to be vulnerable as an advocate, but also to like make those connections and answer those questions that the community might be either too embarrassed for some weird reason to ask themselves, or maybe it's just new content and they don't even know it's a thing yet. So I totally agree with that. Let's move to the next question. And just a reminder for the people in the chat, if you have a question, feel free to ask it in the YouTube chat, and we're gonna go back and answer some of those at the end. But to everyone here, we'll start with Lisa. What made you want to become a developer advocate, and how did you find Elastic? So like what made you want to become a developer advocate and then also one for Elastic?
Sure. So before becoming a developer, I was managing a developer relations program in San Francisco. And I was on the program side and was organizing a lot of hackathons, developer conferences, and meetups. And I was really inspired by the level of impact that developers had and wanted to become one myself. And I especially love the role of that developer advocates played in helping developers get unstuck. So I set that as my goal and became a full stack developer. And I was working at a machine learning startup that used Elastic, and I really loved what it could do. And lo and behold, I saw an opening for a developer advocate position at Elastic. So I applied, and like I didn't even know I was going to get an interview, but I just like cold reached out to current developer advocates on the team, as well as like a former product manager at Elastic. And they were super nice. I mean, like they took the time to like get on a Zoom call with me, and we got to talk about the culture a lot. And what really stood out to me was how warmly everybody spoke of each other. And I really love the belief that the only constant at Elastic is change. And you really get a chance to just like pave your own path and create your own brand and make changes work for you. And that was essentially what I was looking for. And it's funny, like before speaking to Elastic employees, I got an interview request from the recruiter, and all of this was happening concurrently. And I really wanted to showcase what I would be like as a developer advocate. So I wrote a blog on Elastic Stack for beginners, and I was super lucky. It just really blew up on dev.to and just became the top 7 blogs of the week. And developer advocates from the Elastic team was like commenting on it. And I was like, oh my God, like this must be like serendipity or something. The universe is on my side. And then all of this happened like before my first interview with the team. And I usually I hate the interview process because it's just so awkward and like formal and like nerve-wracking. And my experience with the Elastics team was like completely opposite of that. So like they were so warm and inviting and encouraging. And I just left each interview like getting excited about like what we can create together. And after meeting the team, like I knew I wanted to work there. And it's funny because like this all happened the week before I was supposed to like elope to Key West. And I was literally on my way to get married. And the recruiter, Jason, called me on my way, like about the job offer. And I was like, could I call you tomorrow? Because like I'm about to get married. He's like, oh, yeah, that's important. Call me tomorrow. And so I just feel like everything just kind of happened. Like everything was put into place for me to work here. And I'm just like having such a great time just like being a developer advocate. I mean, it's like the best job I've ever had. So that's my story. Yeah.
For those that don't know Lisa is like our like rock star advocate across the board. Like everything she makes, she's like, I made this thing, and then it goes viral, and we're just like, how? Like, how do we keep up with all the awesome stuff that you're making?
No, like everyone on the team does that. So.
Pri, what about you? What made you want to become a developer advocate?
So for me, it was something that just I just end up this way, like being an advocate. But it started with different experiences. So by being a developer for a while, by being a PMA, working with program management and project management, and all of these experiences were things that helped me to learn and to improve my skills. And then it started like with an opportunity that I heard about when I was working in my past job. I heard about a hackathon, and then I was like, and this hackathon was about AI, so about Watson at that time. And then I was like, cool, this is a great topic. And this is something that I was playing with. So, but it was not what I was working with. So I was like, yeah, I'm just playing, but this is an opportunity to learn for free. So I just go there and ask if they need a mentor or someone just to help them. And it was cool because I was just there to learn and to help people, to support people, and to share something maybe, but not literally to apply for a job or to connect. I'm like not that person, not that good with it also. So I was just there helping people. And then I knew, and I knew it months after that I supported my former manager. So he was there. He pretended he was with some questions and started to ask me some stuff. And then I was like, yeah, you need to do this and that. And he said, and I was like, oh, was it good? Sorry, I couldn't like notice that it was you. And then he was like, yeah, you're just like, okay, just someone else, and I will just help him, but I will use my time also to help the others. So it was not like my privilege or something like that. I was just like someone else, and it was cool because I could see that you were there to support people and not to do something else. And I was like, yeah, good. So it was something completely new. But it was like my first contact with the DevRel area itself. And then I was like, this is a good area. And then when I received the offer in the company, like to work, just to move, switch between areas, this person called me and said like, I want you to join this team because we don't have advocate for Brazil specifically. We have a Latin one responsible, but we don't have an advocate. As you can see, like we needed more mentors because we need this someone to be this person here. And then I was like the first person, their first hire. And then I started. So I was like learning with them, also with the support of this Latin responsible one from the management also. But it was not something that I was literally like, oh, I want to be a developer advocate one day. But then I was like, this is really cool. So that's how I end up being an advocate.
I kind of want to go next now because I feel like I'm the polar opposite of what you were. Because I guess for me, like, I spoke at like my first conference. Actually, no, I attended my first conference. They just happened to be the same conference in different years. That's why I get confused. But I attended my first conference, and there was a talk by Heidi Waterhouse about doing technical writing and why everyone, including developers, should be technical writers and they should think about the code that they're writing from a documentation standpoint. And I was like, oh, this is a great talk. Heidi is one of those very charismatic people that's just like, I love having conversations with her. So it's like, I need to have lunch with Heidi. And she had mentioned, she's like, we're hiring developer advocates. And I was like, I don't know what that is. But if it means I get to like hang out with people like Heidi and I get to talk at conferences and do stuff, I'm down. Like that just sounds great. And we had lunch and Heidi was talking about like what she does as an advocate and the travel and all this stuff. And I was like, yep, that's me. That's what I want. I want this for my life. Like nothing else matters but getting a developer advocate role. And I guess the reason why I went with Elastic was I was told at the beginning that like in order to be a developer advocate, you had to become like a developer, you need to get promoted to like senior, like a senior developer, a senior software engineer, and then from there that's when you could kind of move into the advocacy role. And I was like, yeah, I'm in marketing right now. I don't have time for that. I need like another route. And I just asked all of my friends in the Python community, like, hey, I'm looking for software engineering or developer advocacy roles. Do you know of any? Are you like, oh, do you know of any that are open? And I had like a bunch of friends send out tweets. And then Anna, our colleague Anna, like DM'd me and was like, hey, do you have time to talk tomorrow? Because we're hiring for a developer advocate. And everyone that I talk to says like you would be great for it. And I'm just like, okay, I get, well, let's have this conversation on a random Tuesday with someone that I've never met before. So like, we just had that conversation, and all of a sudden, one conversation became an interview with the recruiter, and then meeting everybody on the team. And then all of a sudden they were like, hey, don't worry about your college background. Don't worry about, education and all that stuff. And just do your thing. And I think that was like the coolest part of the process, was like, I was limiting my own ability to take a role because of what other people had said. And then basically like Elastic was like, no, we like what you're doing already. Just come do that for us. Like that sounds great. I'll do that any day. Mm-hmm. What about you, Ricardo?
I try to do something else, but I suck at it, and then I decided to become a developer advocate. That's why I'm here. I'm kidding. That's not the story.
It's the only thing available.
I don't know what that other thing is now.
Yeah, I tried to flip burgers and I burned everything. So I don't know. Well, I think my story about why going to developer advocacy started by a reflection that I did about my career. Like back when I was living and working in Brazil, I used to work for software companies. I don't know if it's called worldwide like a software factories, but in Brazil at least, like Priscilla knows, the fábrica de software, like, right, Priscilla, or consultancy companies, like the consultancy companies that implement projects for customers, custom projects, something like this. The point is, I used to spend about like 8 hours of my day working for those companies, and then at night, to make a little bit more money, I would like go into the training center that those companies used to have and teach development, specifically Java development. So I used to be instructor for Java courses. And that was the period of my time that I actually enjoyed what I was doing, because I've never seen myself like all right, what I'm going to do for the next 10 years, 20 years, like I keep writing code all day. No, I didn't fancy that idea. And I didn't fancy the idea as well, like delivering classes the whole day, right? So what actually made me happy back then was the ability to actually, okay, I'm going to spend some time teaching what I know, and also spend time doing coding, because I like to do it as well. I just don't like to do it the whole day. So when I was back in 2018, personally, I was still working for Oracle. And back there, I was a solution architect. And I was kind of a bit tired of doing what I was doing. The company was great. Oracle is a great company. I had a good job. I had a good salary there. But I was a little disappointed with myself in terms of, all right, I don't like what I'm doing anymore. I don't feel the thrill every time I wake up in the morning. And then I remember the time I was doing exactly this. So I reflected with, all right, what is the period of my life that I was truly happy with what I was doing? And then I realized this. I was doing this, all right, I'm teaching and I'm writing code. And then I started looking for like jobs where I could do this, like, and specifically being paid to do this, right? And then I started looking for, all right, there's this, back then used to be called like a developer evangelist, right? Mm-hmm. The role actually morphed to something that I feel that's more appropriate, which is developer advocacy. But this is how I end up, right, doing this for a living, right? And then I start looking for companies to work for. I spent about 2 years working actually as a developer advocate for a previous company. Probably most people are aware of Confluent, which is one of the companies that are behind Apache Kafka, and pretty much everybody that knows me from the community knows from where I was doing this job with Kafka. But then is where I started to see like, okay, I really like this thing about developer advocacy. And for reasons that are not important to discuss here, I decided to leave Confluent, right? I think that will be unprofessional to say here out loud, but the point is I started looking for companies where I would like focus really on the career of developer advocacy, and it would be like community focus, and that would be like a focusing on truly helping developers, like way less than pushing products and messaging and awareness, and more about truly helping developers. And I've started interview with some companies, and I think I can't say what the companies are. I think that will be unprofessional as well. But I think it's good for people to know that, right, I've choose Elastic because it is a company that actually truly cares about the community concept, right? Not just as an abstract concept, right? Yeah, let's build a community around the open source project. No, it's more than this. It's building a set of people that likes the technology, that likes each other, that helps each other, and I could see this during my interviews. Like I could see, like the shine in the eyes of people that were interviewing me, and I saw that, and I said, all right, those guys, I think they are the ones that I should be like spending like my day every day. So yeah, that's how I end up with Elastic, and I'm happy to it. Don't cry, please.
I will also say that it does help when you are okay. I want to break away from a stereotype that I've heard on Twitter a lot, which is like people who get tired of writing code go to developer advocacy. And like I don't think that's the case. I think it's people that like writing a certain type of code go to developer advocacy, because I like we talk with the software engineers on our team almost on a daily basis. Like shout out to some of the engineers that we have. And what I saw was they were working on projects with deadlines, with feature freezes. Like they were super excited to like talk about things that are going to be coming out 6 to 8 months from now, because they're just having to now start working on it because the feature freeze for it is in like 4 months. So for us, we're writing code like for me, like I'm writing code almost every day, but like I'm building projects that I'm passionate about. I'm like building demos that I think will help people, and like working on blog posts and videos based on stuff that like I'm getting to be creative and not necessarily think about how do I implement this thing on a deadline, and that's, I've got 3 or 4 weeks to come up with a solution to this very simple problem. It's someone has asked the question, how do I do a thing? And then I can sit down and maybe work with them to solve a problem. I can say, oh, there's a lot of people asking this question. Maybe I can build a project and then, give a tutorial about it or talk about it at a meetup. Or even, some of my own passion projects, I can say, these things are important to me. I get to now spend time using our technology stack to answer questions about things that matter to me. And then I get to present them and talk about them because, again, we want to talk about the things that we're passionate about. I think that it's not a matter of you don't want to write code anymore. It's a matter of the things in which the code that you write, you want it to be different. You want it to feel important to you, and you want it to help other people out there on a daily basis. Anything else? Or we want to go to the next question?
Oh, I don't know if whoever is watching us have any questions. Please, if you are shy to ask, please don't be it. Like here's the place where we are all friends, and feel free to ask any questions. Specifically, if you are interested in this career, we don't know much about it, but we can like give our best guesses.
All right, this one's for Pri. And I like this because Pri, you're like the longest running advocate for our team. So I want to know, how does being an advocate at Elastic compare to other dev roles that you've either had or have heard about?
Yeah. So the first thing I would say is like, as a tip, like don't expect it to be the same thing. I mean, the concept of the job itself is okay, is the same, all right? But there are different cultures, different backgrounds, different ways of measuring success or not. So there are other approaches, other solutions the way that the area is connected and integrated with the other areas in your company, the way you are able or not to communicate, how you are interacting or not with other teams, and your management also. And it also changed. It can change also at your company. So it can start being measured in a way, and then next year we can prove, and we are always improving. So don't expect it to be the same thing every time and everywhere. So it would be my first recommendation. I would say, like, don't expect to face the same challenge, for example. And there are always new challenges. This is something cool. At least I consider it something good. But I would say, like, a difference more than this difference, like regarding metrics, the way the company see and understand the area, the way the company understand and measure the success of the area, things like that. So considering these details, but also talking about my previous experience, for example, I would say that the solution is something really important. Like Elastic, it started by being a community. So Elastic started with the free and open style and way of being, and it was like it started with Elasticsearch, and Elasticsearch is the heart of our stack. Everything that we build nowadays are features and solutions using our stack. So it is something that was born as a community and as with this networking, with this connection, with people opening issues and helping each other, with people helping each other literally. And then it proceeded and it started with the sales team, marketing team, and as a company. So it started with community. I think this is a good difference and a good point. And then there are other companies that they started with a company and then they build a community. And there are many examples. You know many communities that started like with one product and then proceeded adding more and more product, but started selling this product at first. Like this was the first and the initial idea, and then it proceeded like, oh, community is something cool, so let's add it. And it doesn't mean like there's a wrong and right way of approaching or of rating a company. It just means that sometimes you see that there are different approaches and different cultures, and the way that companies are able to see it and think about challenge and think about how to literally understand this area and the meaning of this area, the importance of this area is something that, as we say at Elastic, it depends. So there are differences, and this is something that I would expect and you should expect. And this is like this is a summary of how it works, at least in this area.
Anyone else?
I can take one at it. One of the things that I like, the question is about what we like about developer relations in Elastic, right?
It is, how does being a developer advocate at Elastic differ from other roles that you might have heard about?
For those of you that don't know us very well, like we have internal joke that we keep like comparing the span of attention that each one of us, and I am the worst of them. So I am the one that actually will be in a meeting, I will never pay attention to anything, but to small details, it doesn't matter, I will be looking at it. Anyway.
But you remember the end history that I sent through Slack yesterday, right? So
yeah,
I shared a video here, so you understand the joke.
The joke, yeah, I do understand. So I think there are two characteristics that at Elastic that I like very much. And I think there are pretty good differences about what I've seen out there in terms of developer relations. The first one is the sense of autonomy. And the second one has to do with flexibility, right? What I mean by those is that the sense of autonomy, we are a very serious company, right? Elastic is a public company that has been around for many, many years. And because we are part of the marketing team, we have like deliverables, quarterly deliverables, annual deliverables, and we have to deliver them, right? After all, they are deliverables. Got the joke. So, but the way we are actually, let me say how I do it. The way we're actually oriented to deliver those goals is very flexible, right? We have full autonomy to do whatever it takes, whatever the format we want to pursue, whatever techniques or practices, or if you want to do experimentations. And our leaders encourage us to actually being experiment on things, right? As long as we deliver the goals, how we are going to do this, it doesn't matter much. And I've known a lot of companies that are not so flexible as this. Like they want, obviously, they set some goals to be delivered, and they set also the processes and tools and techniques to be used to deliver those goals. So I think that's an important part of friction, that depending on the company you work for, you might see this as something pleasant or unpleasant, right? So I like this at Elastic. And the second one, it has to do with flexibility, as I mentioned before. Flexibility in the sense of we actually can, I'm going to use the word again, experiment on things, right? I'm going to give a couple examples. Like Priscilla, last month, I don't remember very well, but I think last month she tried something very unusual, right? And in this times of pandemic, which was, all right, let's bring the joy back to meetup meetings. And guess what? Let's maybe serve pizzas for whoever is participating of a given meetup. And guess what? It was a success, right? That was her idea, right? And she was able to experiment on this because our leaders give us the flexibility to try this out, right? We don't need to do things like, all right, have this idea, do a video that I want to publish on from YouTube, but no, you are forbidden to do by this yourself, because you have to talk with the content team that needs to approve, and you have to use certain criteria to produce the video. No, we're just go there and do it, right? Lisa is doing an amazing job with the beginners talk shows, and this was her idea that she experimented on, and it became a success, right? Jay, this whole conversation that we are having today came from Jay's idea to actually, all right, let's do something that probably we don't see this before, which is a developer advocate company talking about themselves, right? Jay, do you remember have to ask for approval for any of this? Say no, please.
mean, no. I just kind of said, hey, does anyone want to do this? And everyone was like, yeah, this sounds like fun. And then we just jumped on and started chatting.
Exactly. And I think that's the flexibility I was mentioned before. And this is important because we're going through difficult times, right? Pandemic affected all of us, specifically on the developer relations job. And I don't think doing things just like everybody else is doing is going to be successful in the long run. So the ability to try things out, we fail a lot, right? There are things that we've tried that didn't work so well, but we've learned with those failures, and then we know what not to do. So everything, I think, contributes for Elastic being flexible, gives us the ability to perform our jobs better.
Definitely. I mean, I think with any DevRel teams, I mean, there are expectations that you create content and you go to conferences or whatnot. But what I found to be so refreshing about Elastic is its culture. So it's come as you are culture. You are just trusted that you would use your own talent and approach to add value to the community. And it's just such a healthy culture. Like everybody has different backgrounds, but what we have in common are that, we are driven, we are kind, we are helpful, and we try to remove each other's blockers and try to help each other brainstorm. And I think that's what I found so special and refreshing about the Elastic culture, for sure.
I don't want to. Oh, go ahead, Bree.
No, I would just say that yes, just by feeling comfortable to take risks. When I first started, about 6 months later, I was like, oh, maybe we should think about the program to submit some contributions, and then maybe by creating a ranking. And then I started to write the documentation, and I was like, yeah, maybe we need something like that. And then I was like, yeah, but I just started. So then what if it started being something really bad? And then by people investing time to listen to me, and then nothing working, and then what should I do? And then I think this is also a recommendation for any like, this is career advice, like take risks. And I think like at Elastic, I feel comfortable to take risks, which is something cool. But I would also recommend, because if you don't choose to at least try, Like I developed some codes using Node-RED, and I was like, okay, I will connect. I will send some data to Elasticsearch. I will start the ranking here, and then I'll publish through a GitHub web app because it will be faster. And then I was like, yeah, I will do it by myself because I don't need the approval, and then I don't need people to think that they're helping by building something, because what if it doesn't work? So I was like really afraid of it, and my counselor was like, what if? And then I just noted that no, like this, everything was being supported. Like the management was, they were all supporting me and supporting the team, and then team started to suggest new things, and it ended up like today it is like a team project. Everybody's part of it and helping and suggesting, and there are people scheduling more meetings about it, and suggesting what the next steps are. So it is like something really cool right now that started with something like, yeah, maybe I'll need to take care. It was like my way of conducting things, like just trying to take care. But then I just noted, like by being open to suggest new things and saying if it will work or not, and then by feeling comfortable to do that, to test it out, to see the results and to learn, you can take more and more risks, and I like it. So this is one thing that I think that really helped me and help us, like as Ricardo mentioned, with this example from Jay is also helping with the AI program, and by being part of it, by the app he created, he can also share. This is really cool to find more groups, the AI groups. So these are things like no one asked Jay, oh, Jay, can you please build this and that thing? Or asked Lisa to do it. These are things that just worked, and they did because they were passionate about. So it is really about it. Like if you have the time, and this is something I really believe, and I truly believe, if you have the time and the passion and the support that's needed, you'll be able to implement really great things and to share with people. And this is something that will work, because even if it doesn't, you see that you'll be able to learn. So I really like this way of management and of understanding. And I think that this is a differential for us also.
I think, to kind of jump on that, I think the other side of not having permission is also not being held back by failure. If something doesn't go right the first time, it's not like an immediate, like, close the door on it, this project's over. Like, I wanted to do a YouTube series, and I was like, oh yeah, it'll take like 4 weeks to do all the interviews and get things edited. And it's like 8 months later, it's like now it's scheduled for the end of the year. And it's just like, hey, we learned from our mistakes, and we were able to take that into the next project. And instead of just saying, oh, well, we should never do interview series ever again, we were just like, what could we do differently that would make this a success? And constantly wanting to improve on things that we're passionate about. I think that's like the big difference, is that if we're told, Jay, write a blog post, I will tell you, I am terrible at writing blog posts. I can do it, but I definitely don't have the ability to channel my inner Tony Stark like Ricardo can. Like, I just don't write posts like that, but I can get on a microphone and just talk until someone tells me to shut up. So, like, all of my content tends to be more audio and like video focused. And I can see like Pri has been doing like her own YouTube thing. She has like an elastic YouTube empire going down in Brazil that like we don't ever interact with that much in like the North American side. But then when we have questions about like what we can do with YouTube, the first person that we ask is like, hey, Pri, we want to do something like this. Like, what's your opinion on it? And then Lisa has literally sat down with me for like an hour to an hour and a half and just like gone through my presentations and been like, all right, right here, you talk about this thing. Maybe you could make it a little bit more like user friendly here, or maybe you could take a little bit more time to explain this part. And like by taking that advice, taking those quote unquote failures or not knowing, and then just like applying it in ways that we weren't used to by all collaborating together, we're able to like immediately see improvements on what we're doing. So we don't have to just give up the first time we do something and it doesn't work out right. We're just like, oh, hey, that didn't work out right. What could we do better? And then try it again. And then when things slightly improve, we can go, okay, there's progress. And then keep improving until ultimately we have a successful piece. And I think that that's super important because, I mean, right now, none of us are traveling. We have to figure out ways to reach the community. We have to figure out ways to reach the audience that we can't and that we haven't before. So, like, I have friends that are doing like stuff on TikTok, on Twitch, on YouTube, and it's like they're all terrified because if it doesn't work, they're like, well, now you just wasted all this time and it's a part of like your performance review and all this stuff. Whereas for us, we're like, hey, this is a thing that we're doing that we enjoy. Can we give it a shot? And like, we're actually rewarded for trying stuff. And if it doesn't work out, oh, well, it didn't work out. We can either go back to the drawing board or we can try something else and see what happens.
I want more details regarding this TikTok content because I am curious to understand how it
Yeah. What do you do?
So shout out to one of the advocates, well, two advocates, one over at MongoDB, Joe Carlson, doing amazing stuff, answering junior developer questions on TikTok. And then the other one is Brian Douglas, who's a mentor of mine and kind of convinced me to kind of pursue advocacy a little bit further, who's also doing like GitHub actions, like in 30-second TikToks, or, you know, it's, I'm mind blown at like people doing stuff that the rest of the community isn't doing. And I feel like we have the ability to do those things. It's just, we find the things that we're passionate about and we're like, hey, let's try it. Why not?
By the way, there's an app called Clubhouse. We can try something there.
I've got plans. I've already got plans for Twitter Spaces events, Clubhouse events, like whatever we can do to get in front of people talking about ourselves, because again, that's what we do.
I think the next very step is going to be us speaking at Tinder, and if there's a match, we're going to answer a question. So maybe.
I don't know about that one.
By the way, Tinder is using Elastic, so it will work.
You see?
Hey, it works. Yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
Yep. But by the way, I think there's a point, not sure if we discussed this before today, but for those of you that know Elastic, you know that Elastic is distributed by design or intention, like we used to call it, right? And our team, when we're talking about here today, we represent the Americas team, right? North and South America. But there are other teams that also cover developer advocacy and Elastic. So we have the EMEA team and also the APJ team. And I'm bringing this up because Jay was mentioned before about our ability to be flexible and to learn with our experiences. And something that I actually do very well as well is to learn from other teams, right? So like the amazing things that Priscilla does in Brazil, we try to bring to North America, and the same goes to whatever happening in EMEA or APJ. APJ is Asia, Pacific, and Japan. And I mean, we have this sense of collaboration that has been kind of rooted in our brains, and I think it works very effectively because we try to collaborate as much as we can, right? We try to share our learnings. And what we doesn't work, we're not going to bring to other regions, but we do work. We try to bring it, and I think that's what makes our experience working with developer relation Elastic better, right? Yeah.
I think with that too, we have so much like cultural difference. Like that is such a big thing that we're able to address that's done really well. Like just going through different videos from different advocates in the community, whether it's like, you know, from us, like my Portuguese is terrible. I was going to throw in like a boa tarde like later, but that was like wrong. And I was going to mess it up and like, not even going to try. But then like talking to folks that speak Arabic or talking to folks that, you know, speak Korean or Mandarin or even Cantonese, and just having advocates all over the world that have a better understanding of the culture there and some of the proper ways to even host events. Like that's the events that we hold in North and South America are very different from like the events that are being held in France. They're like, you got 8 minutes, you show up, you answer your stuff, and then you jump off, like we're done. And it's like, that's fine, because that's just the like how events work there. Also, the type of content that's being presented is different. So the fact that we're distributed across the world, like we're able to reach cultures how they expect to be reached, and also know what things are going to be more or less successful in certain areas.
And I actually have an interesting story to share if we have time. I think it was 2019. I went to this conference in Kiev. I don't know how to pronounce this, but it's in Ukraine, right? It was a Java conference, and I had no idea about what to actually present there. So I've applied this abstract that was about something, a very cool subject, but was a kind of a beginners, focusing on beginners, right? Mm-hmm. And I didn't know this. Later on, I've realized that my presentations suck, right? Nobody like it. At least for that conference specifically.
I was going to say, I've seen you do presentations about Pac-Man. That cannot suck. It's impossible.
It wasn't about Pac-Man. It was another demo. The demo itself was pretty cool because I was using kind of Alexa and then like integrating Alexa with some Lambda functions from AWS. In my perspective, I think it was interesting. But the point is, I faced something that it's beyond the language, is a cultural thing, right? I've learned that Ukrainians and Russians, they prefer to talk about advanced things. That's their thing. They just know how their culture works. They don't care much about the beginners content, right? Because I have a friend of mine, Victor Gamov, that I used to work with Confluent, and he explained, he's from Russia, and he explained to me that, right, the way Russian thinks is, all right, beginner content I can learn myself. When I go to a conference, I want to learn what I don't know. It kind of makes sense if you think about it. Debatable, but makes sense for them, and that's okay. That's where the cultural boundaries applies. But the point I'm trying to make here is that I was not aware of this, and that's where I think having a global team like we have here, with people like if you ask someone from EMEA, they'll probably gonna say, yeah, definitely. They'll never apply to JE conference for beginner content. So yeah, I didn't know that. So I think that's the value that having a global distributed team provides.
Yeah, I have a fun story to share regarding the language also. Then I just remember that it was. I mean, I speak Portuguese. I speak English also, but it is not my primary language. So I was in Greece, and then I was invited to speak at the Aristoteles University in Thessaloniki. And then it was like a different country, another language. Of course, I wouldn't speak in Greek, so it would be English. But it was my first presentation by demonstrating how a chatbot works. So I was building a chatbot. So it was like a real-time presentation, but I was not prepared because I was there for another stuff. I was doing something else. I was like working, but doing something completely different. So this vibe just came up, and I was like, okay, I will build a chatbot here for them to see. It was for PhD students, so I was like, maybe it's not that advanced, but anyway, let's see how it works. And then I started to build it, but again, it was like my first presentation. So I had something in mind. I was like, when I start to build a chatbot in Portuguese, it usually is about the call center and maybe some problems, and Ricardo will know what I'm trying to say. But in Portuguese, usually when you call the call center because your internet connection is not working properly, they say like, what's your problem? But like I was typing, okay, what's your problem? And then when I typed what's your problem, people were starting to, oh my God. And I was like, what's the problem with what's your problem? And then they were like, oh no, but this is something not very good to say. I mean, just let's change it. And then I was like, for the whole presentation, I was like really paying attention and to start to writing everything really formal, because I was like, no, this is not something good. So there are things with the language that sometimes you are really, oh, this is something, what's your problem? I mean, by talking about the problem, but that people might understand it not in the way that you are trying to say, and understand like this is a real problem, like a personal problem. So I was like, yeah, I need more time for the next time. but it was something funny because for them it was funny also, so it was a good moment. But again, something that a Greek might be able to help me the next time, like, oh, they take it differently, what your problem is a different approach, isn't good to use. So this is something regarding culture also.
I have a question for Lisa. I think it'll be a good one. So
Yeah.
Lisa, you ask, or like you present a lot to beginners, and I feel like the hardest part of talking with a beginner is like they don't always know what they don't know. So how do you, like, there's always that person that's like in the chat. I think I've seen it a few times, like just watching some of your presentations. Someone's like, I want to like index all of the documents from articles from like the New York Times. And you're just like, uh, so yeah, you can do that, but there might be like legal issues with trying to do that. It's like, oh no, I just scraped their website. And you're like, let's just stop having this conversation now to avoid implicating anybody. Like, how do you balance like the excitement and eagerness of people wanting to learn versus the like, hey, before we start trying to like brute force scrape the New York Times website, let's start with something simple like this demo that we've provided.
Wait, so how do I find that balance?
Yeah, how do you like keep that excitement level up while also like bringing their like expectations down a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Like, I would give talks and I would get questions that were just so outside of the scope of what I'm talking about. And I mean, I guess the way I balance is kind of painting a picture like, okay, yes, this is absolutely possible. Like, everything that you're envisioning is you can get there with Elasticstack and like among with other products. But in order to get there, we got to take baby steps first. So let's learn how to walk and then kind of build on that. So like that's the approach that I usually take. Yeah. But at times when I get those questions and I don't even know the answers to, I'm just like, let me get back to you on that. But yeah.
Jay, you're muted. I think.
Jay, you're muted.
Jay?
I can't hear you.
Yeah.
Oh my, okay, how about now? Are we good now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So this is the last call for questions from the chat. We've got about 30 minutes left, so we're gonna start asking our last question that we've prepared, and then save time for the end to answer any questions that someone in the chat might have. So just leave a comment in the YouTube chat, and we'll be more than happy to answer it when we get to the end. So the last question that I had was, developer advocacy is growing. Like it's such a large community, and there's even roles now that are kind of joint software engineer / developer advocate, which blows my mind how you have time to do both. But okay, cool. What advice would you give to someone who is interested in becoming a developer advocate? And anyone can jump in on this one.
I can try. I can start. Like, I think like I mentioned in the beginning, I think the fundamental characteristic that I would like if I was a developer trying to ask help for a developer advocate in anything, right? I think the first characteristic I will try to find in him or her would be empathy, right? So I think practicing empathy in everything you do as a developer today is going to be a very good way for you to prepare to become a developer advocate, right? And why I say this, right? Like everything else in life, there's two sides of the coin, right? In one side of the coin, you can see developer advocacy as this cool, trendy, and awesome career that pretty much everybody's kind of at least willing to jump through. Sometimes even as a progression in their development career, and there's nothing wrong with this. I think that's fine. But they forget to also analyze what entails this job career. And what entails is, like I said, a lot of empathy practicing, right? So if you are not necessarily like very used to like, all right, spend some time truly helping people, spend some time creating things that will help people, not you. This is important, right? Because think about, as a developer, you spend a lot of time trying to fix things that ultimately is going to help your job, right? But now you were pretty much doing the same, but not to help your job, but to help others' jobs. And that's key. And you have to start like practicing this in your, like, if you are a developer, you need to be a developer at least, right? Or at least having a, not necessarily a computer background, computer degree, but you have to have worked as a developer to become a good developer advocate. So that's a first, right? So I would arguably like to take one step back and say this, that right, the first advice, at least practice software development, because you cannot fool developers, right? I think developers are this very picky, like a group of people that they do not necessarily going to actually trust someone that never wrote a code, right? There's even this joke in the developer advocacy word that, all right, if you go to a conference, you're probably gonna see the same set of jokes being thrown around all over again, right? Jokes about problems with deployment, jokes about code that is too complex, code that needs to be refactored. And even to be able to understand and laugh from those jokes, you have to be a developer. So that's why I keep saying the first step is to become a developer, because you cannot fool them, right? This is important because if you try to, for example, right, to come from a non-development background straight to developer advocacy, you are going to struggle, right? Not saying it's impossible. What I'm saying is you're going to struggle because, like I said, developers are not very fooled so easily, right? So I think that's the two advice. Practice empathy, like practice doing your daily job, like truly developing, helping other people. And also, right, if you're not a developer yet, start from there, right? Start being a developer, spend some time writing code, spend some time, like Lisa, I think she said that during our conversation today. Try to spend time observing the type of problems that developers face in their daily job, right? And try to focus on those problems. That's how you actually need to start in this career.
I think with, and Pri, would you like to go?
No, you can just go first and then I'll go last.
So I think like any career, a lot of us try to fit into a company or fit into that job description, but that's not what's going to guarantee the longevity or the success of your career as developer advocate. So first, it's important that you make sure it is the right fit for you. So like, do you enjoy teaching, troubleshooting, creating content? Are you comfortable in speaking in front of a big crowd? Or do you enjoy traveling? And I mean, this job is very public facing. So with any career, like you will meet some trolls along the way. Do you enjoy being diplomatic? All of that stuff. So if your answers are yes to all these questions, being a developer advocate is going to be a blast. And once you know it's a fit for you, then explore like all the technologies out there and just pick a technology that you would just play with on a weekend on your own. And then narrow down the companies that focus on that technology. And I would do some research on their culture as well. So like the first round is Glassdoor, see what the reviews are like. Then like reach out to former employees because you'll often get like the most honest scoop about the team culture there. And then just like reach out to like somebody who's currently on the team and just see if your values and goals really align with theirs, because that's the team that you're going to want to pick if you want to grow with them long term. And another thing you could do is, create an app or like a demo or a blog about a company product. And when you do that, you really demonstrate your investment in the company and what you're like as a developer advocate. So it will really help you stand out rather than just putting in an application cold. So that would be my advice.
Yeah, I think that Ricardo also wrote a blog about it. I think it is good to share with the community, the people that are watching here. But I would just mention that because he mentioned it about empathy, and empathy is a point there. So I would say like the first thing is that I really agree, like to really want to help. I think if you genuinely want to help people, if you really want to support them, you like the role, because the point is like don't try to. I mean, and this is something that I really feel like if you try to, oh, this is my content, I produce it, I'm not going to share, but this is my idea, this is my video, this is my project, this is my and just my name needs to be there, and my code needs to be there, and I want you, if you want to use my code, I want you to also mention that this is my code, and things like that. You start to be like, it is not your community, it is like the company's communities. It is about the product, it is not about you. And sometimes I see like people just wanted to take the ownership of everything instead of genuinely help and genuinely think about the community itself. Like, this is how you're going to help them. Of course, you're not the support itself, you're not providing an SLA or things like that, but if you really want to help them, you'll be there, you'll be available. You say that maybe you can answer this and that, maybe they need to wait more time, maybe you need to find the right person, but by really wanting to help them, to understand, to spend some time with them, to understand what's the pain point is, like what they're facing, what they want to achieve. If they want like the if you think about solution, you start with the problem. By identifying the problem, you know that you can start the process to understand how to solve it. But the problem is the first thing for any ideas. Like Jay identified the problem here, like the problem that people want to know what developer advocacy is, and then he's provided a solution. So I think this is something really good, like to really want to hear people and to understand what they're saying and to listen instead of just hear, like to really understand what they're saying and to try to support them. So if you like it, this is something really cool, because this is about people. Developers are people, who knows, but we are people. We're working with each other. We are a team, and we are working with more people. So I think this is a good point. The another point that I think it is also cool that Ricardo also mentioned it about being a developer, to have some experience. I think it is important also, because it will help you at least to understand what you're talking about, which is something important. So so then you can start from there. But don't think that just because you're just a developer and had I don't know, just sales experiences. I was part of the sales team for a while, as an architect for a while also. I think as Ricardo, and then this is something that is not invalid. Oh, just because you were part of a different team, there's a different approach, and this is not valid anymore. No, because today I can deal with C-levels. I can talk to them. I can explain the solutions. And they can feel safe. They can feel that I am not going to provide them many details or to provide different terms, and also the sales team can feel comfortable that I'm not going to offer another solution completely different to a problem that we can't solve here just because I don't care about them. So it is something about a balance, because then I have the right experience and then I know how to balance the content and to deal with these people. So everything is valid. Like, even if you are part of the marketing team or anyways, another team, like if you already have this developer experience or want to have it, and then want to then after all proceed with this developer advocacy experience, and this is something completely possible. You're not losing time. I think this is my point. You're not losing time. This is also a valid experience. You're not losing time at all. And finally, the last thing is just show up. Start contributing, start being part of the community, start being part of the events, start speaking, start contributing the way you can, like because I think that community is are people that we care about and that we want to learn from them and to teach them and to contact and to interact. So community is about people. Developer is just like about which kind of people we are talking about, but it is also about community and more important about community. So start from there, like being part of it, to understand it, and it is for free. I mean, most of the time, at least our meetups are free. So start being part of it, and then you can start from there, and then to learn and improve, and then you'll be able to see that it is not something that difficult or that impossible. This is something completely normal. I mean, we are not, we are just talking to each other here as a normal day, as a normal meeting. So this is what we do. We talk to each other, we interact, and we share information.
I think to echo one of the things that Pri mentioned that's super important, which is take your skills and apply them. Like don't try to conform to like what you think it is. And I would also say like don't let the barrier, like any type of like recruiting barriers or like resume barriers that you feel like you may have. Like I will say I'm a college dropout turned military veteran. Like I don't have a traditional education background. I then jumped into marketing. So I was able to apply marketing skills with just like this hobby of learning how to code on the side. And the fact that I've been doing like podcasting for, 8 years now. And it was like, okay, these are skills that I've developed over time, and I can apply them to advocacy in a way that not many other developer advocates can. Not many other developer advocates are coming from a podcasting background, a video background, and a marketing background. So those were my selling points. Like Pri said, working in support, you learn a lot about empathy, you learn a lot about patience, and being able to understand what the question is actually being asked. And sometimes someone will say like, this doesn't work, why does it not work, I hate this app, it's terrible, blah blah blah. And then you can just sit down with them and go, what about it doesn't work? And then sit with them and be patient and let them get their frustration out, and then show them the semicolon that they might have missed or the comma that they missed. And then from that point, it's like, oh, this is amazing, I love this app, and the team is so helpful and all this stuff. So like it's amazing how easy it is to take roles that are focused on empathy and focused on community and then apply the coding side of things after the fact. It's like, I want to do things that are important to me. Like one of the things that I wanted to showcase, and even doing this live stream as a whole, is everyone on this team is from an underrepresented group in tech. And I mean, that would be my answer to like why I chose Elastic at the end of the day. Like, sure, Elastic chose me, but this is the first team where the struggles that, being a Black person in tech can translate across the board. Like I can talk to my coworkers and be like, this thing happened to me and I don't know how to feel about it. Or, we had this discussion and maybe this is why, someone in the community wasn't thinking about it the same way that someone from our background might. And we can have those conversations and approach them with empathy and approach them the way that we've kind of had to do this entire time in our tech career, and just say, hey, let's figure this out. Let's answer these questions in a way that hopefully we can grow our community to look more like us, and to have more people that, represent Sao Paulo and Rio and San Diego and Tijuana right down the street from me. Like I want to see that happen. And I don't think that it can happen if we don't have more of those underrepresented folks speaking up and advocating for companies, but also advocating for folks that look like them. Any other thoughts? Any other advice you want to give to someone getting into the community? We've got a few minutes left, so if you have questions in the chat, be sure to ask them, whether we've answered it or not. We're here to answer questions on being an advocate, whether it's for Elastic or anyone else. Anyone on the panel have any other thoughts?
I guess thought-wise, recommendation-wise, I think we covered pretty much everything. Like the summarization was awesome.
I will say I will be in trouble. I will be the first one to admit my own mistakes here. I forgot to make the live stream public until the very end. So we've had a lot of like
Oh.
private stuff. Like all these questions that got answered.
Are
This
we
is probably the
recording?
funniest thing we've seen. No, we are recording totally, but
This
people
is
are now
something
coming
really
in.
funny.
Oh no.
Oh, so now they're there?
Yeah. So
Oh, okay.
So we actually have a question from the chat now, from Reggie. What's the funniest thing you've seen as a developer advocate, other than my mistake of just starting the stream at the end?
I think this mistake is the funniest, but
Yeah.
I will say the unlisted link still worked. So if people clicked on it from Twitter or something, they could still view us. It's just, yeah. I was wondering where that spike came from, and it was like, oh yeah, it's because I made it public. So yeah, what's the funniest thing you've seen as a developer advocate? I can answer this one really quickly. Shout out to Haley Denbraver, who is another amazing developer advocate. They did a talk on error reporting, and they did it in the theme of Jurassic Park, and even cosplayed. So that was like the whole presentation in character, talking about how do we report this incident of like dinosaurs getting loose and like destroying everything.
That's something. That's something. And that requires skills if you think about it.
Yeah.
I think this is also called a technique, right? When you were measuring the ability of someone to improvise, I think they call impromptu presentation. They're usually use this in an interview. Like, for example, you're good at something, but you have to give a presentation, a 5 minutes presentation about something that you were not good at it. And they usually throw at your lap like the topic of it, and you have to come up with something. So that will be a great example of it. And to deliver this requires skills.
Yeah.
You have to be really good at just speaking, right? Speaking out of your mind.
What's another funny example, or I guess a funny thing you've seen as a developer advocate?
I wouldn't say like a funny thing, but I had this episode that was kind of a really embarrassing to me, but overall it was funny. Like I think it was in this conference called Kafka Summit, 2018, and I had created this demo where basically people would like use Twitter to actually vote for something, right? But their votes would show up in the screen that I was sharing, right?
oh,
And,
don't do that.
yeah, exactly. And then there was the speaker that was about to actually he was about to present next me, right? She was going to be like the next speaker, and he actually entered the voting system and say, hey, let's wrap it up this presentation soon because I need to present mine. So like kind of a joking about, all right, this presentation has done. And so everybody started laughing at me, and of course, and I was kind of trying to put my head inside of the ground because I was kind of really embarrassed. But overall, I think it broke the ice, right? I think it was really funny on that. And so I think that's an advice that I took to me about every time I'm doing a presentation where whatever data is inputted by the public or the audience show up in the screen, I have to make sure that it's not going too far back at me. So I have to prepare better for this.
I'm not sure if I came across like something outrageously funny, but like I could recall a really inspiring and heartwarming moment as a developer advocate. So I remember seeing a developer advocate giving a talk, and something just went terribly wrong, and I could see like the panic and just the anxiety like in her eyes. And
That's the worst.
I mean, I think that's like one of developer advocates' like worst fear. Like, what if that happens and like everybody's just like, criticizing or like jumping on my throat? That is like not the case like at all. Like all the audience were like stepping up, like looking over like her code. I'm like, okay, so why don't you try this, and this, and this? And they all figured it out together as a group, and like a huge applause for the speaker. And I think that's like one of the most memorable moments that I've had as a developer advocate, just being like witnessing that. So if anybody is just afraid to get into developer advocacy, there's no need for you to like fear, just like jump into it. And developers are just one of the most generous and understanding community out there. And it's because of the help that I received as like a beginner developer that I wanted to get into developer advocacy to like pay that forward. So yeah, that's what I would say. Yeah.
There was this episode as well. Just a context. It's not about something funny, but something that I felt that was beautiful. I was watching this presentation in a conference before where the speaker was trying to explain something that was presumably complex, right? And then there was this lady way back in the room, back in the time where we used to go to conference on person, of course. She was way back in the room, and she was having her infant on her lap, and the baby started crying a bit, right? And of course, it started to kind of create some background that's noisy in the presentation, and kind of not being so good both for the audience and the presenter. And what the presenter did, right, instead of actually asking for the helpers in the back to try to make something or do, he actually stopped his presentation. No, I take that back. He didn't stop. He continued to speak, and then get down to the stage and start moving like very slowly in her direction, and actually ask her permission to take care of the baby in his arm. And then he continued talking and trying to kind of nursing the baby in his arm. And then everybody was kind of wow, this guy's a hero, because I think that's the spirit that a developer advocate should have, like the pure concept of empathy with everybody. So I thought that was beautiful to see.
Yeah, I also have one example on that, and then this is not for something funny, but then I just remember that it happened one day, and then it is really good to mention that it was, I don't know if you know the hackathons, I already mentioned it, but I really like hackathons. And then there was a time, I mean, it always happens. I mean, bugs when we are demonstrating something, problems when we are submitting a code, when you're part of a hackathon and then submitting a code, because this is what happens next when you just submit it. But I was usually I am the mentor of these hackathons, and then I was acting as a mentor at that time, and then trying to help all the groups. But then there's a time, like for example, you need to deliver it by 1 o'clock. And then they all together trying to submit it really fast and real quickly. And then what happened was that there was a group that they were really late because one of their team members, one of the developers left. And then they were like alone, just one developer trying to submit it really fast. And then I was trying to help him, but it was just me and him, and the other groups with 5 developers and more. So I was like, oh my God, but let me try. And then it was like, I don't know, about 10 minutes to end the deadline to submit it. And then when I look at around, there are people saying like, do this, do that, and Ken here, let me help you. And they were competitors. They were competing through the same hackathon, but they were like, let me try to help them because he's alone. So he needs help. So they were helping me also and providing assistance with me. And then I was like, oh my God, so this is really cool. And the developer, he was like, oh my God, I was not expecting, and I was not expecting also. So this is something good to mention. And there are always, I mean, about funny things, I think all of our problems, if I think about problems, I also think about the situation as something funny. So I can't think about like something that was bad as something bad, because it ended up being funny, like this problem with the what's your problem thing, and like a demo that I was trying to when I was off running, and then people started to see the wrong tweets about something really random. So there are things that are that end up being funny. So I mean, these are good things at the end. So I think that I really enjoy about contacting and interacting with people, like to see how it goes.
I think the to me, and the funniest thing that I've seen is eventually you start seeing the same people and the same talks at conferences, like, and again, it has to be a thing that we do, 'cause, I mean, I have like 3 meetup presentations and like 2 conference talks, so you get this one or you get this one, and it's so that we can focus on kind of some of the other stuff that we do. But it's always interesting to see how, like, when something embarrassing happens the first time. And I guess a good example of this is uh, I was helping out at a conference for Pi Gotham last year. And this was the first, I think this conference was like 3 days after I had started at Elastic. And I had already been accepted to speak at it and everything else. So it was like me trying to like retrofit all of the, hey, I'm a developer advocate at Elastic and stuff. But I was also helping with the transcriptions. And the transcription that I provided for someone who I believe was in Albania was they were talking about how names are just different all over the world. And in his accent, when he said his name, Shadivi, it sounded like he said Greyheart. And throughout the entire transcription, I kept putting Greyheart all the time, all the time. And he would point to his head and say, yeah, Greyheart. And I'm like, that's kind of weird. I don't know what's going on. And then after the conference, he messaged me. He said, hey, thanks for all the stuff that you were doing. By the way, it's gray haired. And I was just like, oh, I am sorry, accents and stuff. So then the next conference I spoke at, I actually got to watch him give the same presentation. And every time he got to gray haired, I would just like chuckle inside. I'm just like, oh man, yeah, I messed that one up big time. So I feel like if I see him in person, if I see you at a conference, Shadivi, I promise I will buy you a beer. Like, it is, I absolutely owe you. All right. Anything else? We're at time, so I want to be respectful of everyone's time. But any closing thoughts? No. All right. Any last chance for questions in the chat? While we're doing that, I want to remind everybody, again, the conversation does not have to stop here. If you have questions for us, of course, you can always reach out to us. Most of us are on Twitter or we're doing other stuff on YouTube, so feel free to reach out. Also, if you are interested in connecting at an Elastic event, you can do so by heading over to our community page, community.elastic.co. There's a lot of upcoming events coming up. I see more and more people entering the stream, which makes me feel really bad because, again, we've only been public for like 20 minutes now. But
no, but just let them know what happened, because I don't think they know.
Yeah. So for those that are just entering, welcome. Somebody who is responsible for the live stream did all of the steps except for make the YouTube video public. So if you had the link, you could watch it. But if you were just coming to the channel, yeah, that's on me. But as I mentioned before, we're allowed to make mistakes. That just means we have to do this again some other time. So pre-space
is recorded,
like...
right?
At least it's recorded.
Yes, it is recorded. You can go back and watch the VOD. Absolutely. But also, yeah, you can laugh at me if you do so. Go to our community forum and be like, hey, even advocates mess it up from time to time. And you can use me as the example. My panelists here have been nothing but awesome. So 100% on me. But I want to thank everybody for coming out to the stream and checking it out. I also want to let people know we are going to be doing more live streams in the future. We have a couple of events that are going to get in the way for the next few weeks, but expect in June we're gonna have some people coming onto the stream and showing what it's like to work at Elastic and what it's like to build some of these projects, and also have some of these discussions. So with that said, does everyone want to let people know how they can reach out to you if you have questions?
Well, I think if everybody's seen my name here, I put my Twitter handle at Ferreira, so I think that's the best way to find me out. This is also happens to be my email, so pretty easy. And just one quick reminder, taking what Jay just said, like if you ever have any like a subjects that you would like us to focus on here as a conversation, just send us a note. Like, for example, I would like to know how to best create a Spring Boot application with Elasticsearch. So we can put all of those together and talk about this for like 30 minutes. And that's a way for us to actually try to help you to address specific questions that you might have. So we're open to those type of things as well.
All right.
Yeah, I think I would. Yeah, I have the LinkedIn account, which I think is a good one. For those who are from Brazil, I will paste some Telegram's URL and the Latin. There's a website that I put all the content together, so then you can find out the groups, the URLs, and everything. So I would just paste it there also. I mean, from Brazil anyway, but they speak Portuguese. And yeah, that's all basically. I don't use Twitter. I mean, I use it, but I have a fake account for demos, and this is not my account, so I don't want you to just search it. But anyway, I don't use it. I mean, I want to. I will. I promise, but I don't. So it is just about LinkedIn, and it is my name, double L.
Pre's other job is an influencer and on Twitter. That's she doesn't want us to know. She's getting all the brand deals, and this stream is now brought to you by Nike and a few others, thanks to Pre.
But there's something else. I remember the other thing. Like I have Instagram. No one is using. I mean, as a advocate, but I use it professionally. I mean, there's my dog there, but the other stuff is are professional, so you can just see it there, and yeah. That's it, the basic. Oh, the YouTube channel. I will put it there. I'll add it there also.
And also, if you happen to follow Priscilla on Instagram, you are going to have the chance to see the amazing pizza photos that she took when she executed the last meetup in Brazil. And I always go there to see the pizzas that I miss from Brazil because they're amazing.
Yeah, I'm on a diet. No pizza for me. That's fun. Lisa, what about you? What if people want to learn about your amazing crash courses?
Cool. Thanks. So I think the best way to reach me would be via Twitter as well. So I am dropping the handle in the chat. And then also I give live workshops. So I focus on beginner's crash course to Elasticstack. So just really focusing on the basic concepts, breaking it down, and just teaching you how to get started. So if you're interested in that, I host live workshops at our United States and Canada virtual chapter. So I dropped the link there as well. So that's the best way to reach me.
What's the link? Okay, I will send it later and then you can paste it. I mean, our link. Because I was going to paste it, but I can't find us.
It's
anyway.
I dropped it in the chat.
In this chat?
Yeah.
I just can't do that.
Yep, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't have like the text box here, but I'll paste it later.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us for a little bit. And to my fellow colleagues, thank you for taking our normal meeting time to have a meeting with the rest of YouTube. And yeah, until next time, take care. Have a great day, everyone.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.